sanctions against businesses doing business within Iran. The core of the sanction action would really be to ban oil imports. Oil is the heart of the matter. As we've also seen in Syria, it often boils down to oil in the end. And are they willing to take that big step? And the things that probably sanction-wise would really, drive the nail not into the coffin, so to speak, but drive a message very, very much home to Iran would be both freezing relations with its central bank and also barring any imports of oil. Now, the 27 ministers, you're right, will be meeting in Brussels. They're going to be trying to sort of formulate some sort of coordinated response. Obviously, they're talking about other things. Iran's not the only thing on their plates today, but they will be trying, obviously, to formulate some sort of more united response, because there is a sense right now Iran's economy, if not in a tailspin, is in extremely troubled times. And usually it's easy to be cynical about sanctions, that they're not really effective. You need to do something more forceful. But applied in the right way, there is a sense that targeted sanctions, but targeted over the right sectors, especially its very, very important key energy sector, could do the job. We'll have to see what happens. There's no blanket consensus so far on oil. That would be a very sort of radical move to take, a very aggressive move.
Now, as is the brief of Top Story, you're going to go off on a different kilt now, because some are saying the embassy attack and the reaction to it as well points to a bit of a growing divide within Iran itself as well.
Yeah, not even a bit, just a growing divide, flat out, because what we've basically seen is, as much as everyone looks at the president, Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, and calls him a lunatic, fanatic radical in some circles in the West, he actually, within the context of Iran's current politics, could be seen as a moderate. He could be seen as a man who's actually, against all odds, been trying to pursue a slight opening to the West, at least trying to keep contacts. Who's he up against? Well, it's a no-brainer. He's up against, on the one side, let's not forget, he's not the paramount power in Iran. And that's the spiritual leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. And this is the man who basically has the final verdict, the final say in the land. And he oversees, the Revolutionary Guards, which are seen as sort of almost shock troops for Iran's very theological, spiritually led regime, and the youth militia version of the Revolutionary Guard. They're known as the Basiji. We saw them, these young guys in the black leather jackets, out on the motorcycles. We saw them out in force in the aftermath of the 2009 elections. Remember the Green Movement to try to recapture those elections, and basically it was very brutally suppressed. And we had lots of images out of Iran showing that suppression in action. And since then, there's been a sense that there's been a real clash between the more conservative elements, the much more ultra-conservative elements under Khomeini, and Ahmadinejad, who would perhaps like to project a slightly more moderate image. This attack could be seen as a way of his conservative rivals as perhaps trying to put Ahmadinejad on the back foot to, in a sense, scupper his attempts at openings to the West by making it absolutely untenable in any way to continue to have good relations with them. Basically, especially on the nuclear dossier, the very controversial nuclear program. Any hopes of any sort of negotiation could be scuppered if you have both of these factions emboldened, so to speak, the Revolutionary Guards, the Basiji, against the more moderates. And the Speaker of Parliament as well, I may say, his reaction was very telltale. Ali Larijani, he basically came out and he condemned the Security Council's condemnation of this attack. And he basically said that this is a symbol of the British imperialism and the hostility that a lot of Iranians have towards the West. So he's basically very much speaking on behalf of the conservative camp.
Yeah, you mentioned that the hostility of the Iranians. No love lost between Britain and Iran for over 30 years. But many people in Iran do see Britain as a bit of an epitome of Western arrogance, really, don't they?
Imperial Western arrogance. You see, what's interesting is you say, well, what about the U.S.? The thing is, the U.S. doesn't have any representation there and hasn't since it had its own embassy incident, if you want to call it that. It was actually a 444-day hostage crisis back in 1979. Many people say that really sort of marks the real period of Iran's estrangement step by step from the West. Things never quite got back to normal business, as normal as they could be in this type of relationship. Since then, Britain has been quoted as being called the nest of spies. When Iranians are really looking for, since the Israelis also don't have a representation, the Britons are the target of first resort when you see them. They were up until yesterday, very much still present in Iran. They were the go-to people. So if you had a gripe against the West, Britain was the target. And you've had a series of incidents, like you said, you mentioned the fatwa order against Salman Rushdie back in 1989. There was an actually 18-month rupture in relations between Iran and Britain in the wake of that fatwa. Eventually, the relations were restored. You can never say they got quite back onto a normal footing. Well, you mentioned that part of the attack yesterday involved the residential compound in Kolhat. These are the gardens, a sprawling garden compound, which actually Tehran's municipal authorities claim the Brits are ravaging. They're cutting down trees. They'd like it back. They'd like to reclaim a lot of this land for the city. It was a product of another era that they say Britain has absolutely no rights holding. So a lot of animosity to Britain, and just try to keep this relationship on an even keel is a daily challenge. And right now, as you said, it's at its lowest intensity. It's at the lowest level ever. So there's quite an upward climb getting it back on track in the months ahead.
Doug Herbert, thanks very much. Doug Herbert, our international affairs editor here on France 24. Let's move on to other stories. It is a landmark visit to a country not gone to officially for over